First part. Billionaire Malcolm Sterling believed his granddaughter was growing up surrounded by comfort, safety, and opportunity. For 18 long years, he never missed a single month of support. Over $2 million sent with one purpose: to make sure Nia never lacked anything. In his mind, she lived a quiet, privileged life with her stepmother, preparing for college, dreaming about the future. That belief shattered in seconds. When Malcolm hired private investigators for a routine update, he expected reassurance. Instead, what they uncovered rewrote everything he thought he knew. His 18-year-old granddaughter was found sleeping on a narrow cot inside a crowded Chicago shelter, wearing donated clothes, surviving on meals from soup kitchens. And when Malcolm confronted her stepmother with one simple question, "Where is every penny I sent?" the color drained from the woman's face. If you've ever wondered how far greed can push someone, this story will leave you stunned. It's a story of betrayal hidden behind family ties, a childhood stolen in silence, and a grandfather who refuses to let injustice have the final word. Before we go any further, subscribe and turn on notifications, because stories like this deserve to be told. Now, let's uncover what really happened. Malcolm Sterling sat motionless behind his massive mahogany desk on the 72nd floor of his downtown Chicago office. Beyond the floor-to-ceiling windows, the skyline stretched endlessly, steel and glass monuments to the empire he had built over 4 relentless decades. At 73, Malcolm was worth over $3 billion, his name etched into commercial real estate projects across 3 continents. But on this bitter November morning, none of that mattered. Seated across from him was Devin Reynolds, a seasoned private investigator whose expression carried a weight Malcolm had never seen before. Without a word, Devin slid a manila folder across the desk. Inside were photographs Malcolm couldn't immediately understand, couldn't emotionally process. A young woman with warm brown skin and thick natural hair pulled into a modest bun stood in line outside a soup kitchen, her shoulders slightly hunched against the cold. Another image showed her asleep on a narrow shelter cot, surrounded by strangers. The final photo captured her washing dishes at an industrial sink, soap bubbles clinging to her thin arms. Malcolm's hands began to tremble. Those eyes, that familiar gaze, the faint dimple in her left cheek when she smiled at someone beyond the camera. It felt like looking at a ghost. "That's not possible," Malcolm whispered, his voice cracking. "Nia lives in Oak Park. She's with Kai. She's getting ready for college. She's supposed to have everything." Devin leaned forward, his tone careful but unflinching. "Mr. Sterling, I've done this job for 27 years. I followed every paper trail. The address you've been sending money to, that's a $2.3 million mansion. Kioma lives there with her 2 biological children. Both attend private schools." He paused, letting the silence stretch. "But Nia," he continued quietly, "has been living at Mercy House Shelter on the south side for the past 3 months. Malcolm felt his chest tighten. "Before that," Devin added, "she lived in a rundown apartment on West Madison. The landlord remembers her. 18 years ago, a woman brought a baby there and kept her isolated. Rarely let the girl outside. Then, 3 months ago, the woman moved out. Left Nia behind. No warning, no explanation. Nothing." The room seemed to close in. Malcolm's doctor had warned him about stress, about his blood pressure. But no warning could have prepared him for this. For 18 years, he had trusted blindly. Month after month, payment after payment, never questioning a thing. He trusted Kai because she was family, because she had stepped in when his world collapsed. The memory still haunted him. The day his daughter Thandi died was the darkest chapter of Malcolm's life. She had been his only child, brilliant, compassionate, a pediatric nurse with dreams of opening a community clinic for underserved families. She had married Jerome Johnson, a gentle high school teacher and basketball coach. Their life together was full of laughter and plans. Then tragedy struck. Jerome was killed by a drunk driver on his way home from practice. Thandi was 6 months pregnant. The grief nearly destroyed her, yet she held on, for the child growing inside her. She endured the pain, determined to bring her baby into the world. She succeeded. But she didn't survive. complications during childbirth took Thandi's life just moments after baby Nia took her first breath. Malcolm had stood helpless in that hospital room, watching doctors fight for his daughter while nurses rushed the crying newborn away. In that moment, he believed he had failed. Failed to protect his daughter. Failed to keep his family safe. Failed to stop the unthinkable. And now, in the days following Thandi's funeral, Malcolm Sterling existed more than he lived. At 70 years old, a widower with an empire to manage, he had just buried his only child. The silence in his home was unbearable. Every room echoed with loss. And the idea of caring for a newborn, while carrying his own crushing grief, felt impossible. That was when Kioma arrived. She was Jerome's older sister, a woman Malcolm had met only twice before. She came dressed in sympathy and soft-spoken certainty, sitting across from him in his living room, as if she already belonged there. Her proposal sounded compassionate, logical, almost comforting. She would raise baby Nia as her own, give her a stable home. Let her grow up alongside Kioma's 2 children, surrounded by family. Malcolm, she said gently, would continue to provide financially, just as Thandi would have wanted. You know your brother would have wanted this, Malcolm remembered saying, his voice hollow and exhausted. He loved Thandi deeply. This child, she's all we have left of them. Kioma had nodded, squeezing his hand with practiced tenderness. She promised to love Nia like her own flesh and blood. Within days, Malcolm's lawyers finalized the arrangement. $10,000 would be transferred every month into an account created in Nia's name, managed by Kioma as her legal guardian. Over 18 years, that promise added up to more than $2 million. Money meant security, or so Malcolm believed. It was meant to pay for education, healthcare, clothing, opportunity. A future without limits. He signed away guardianship while retaining financial responsibility and visitation rights. But Kioma gently suggested distance. Too many visits might confuse the child, she warned. Let her adjust. Let her feel stable. Visits could happen later, when Nia was older. Malcolm agreed. He told himself he was doing the right thing. He told himself this was what Thandi would have wanted. He told himself money could make up for absence. Now, staring at photographs of his granddaughter sleeping in a homeless shelter, Malcolm finally understood the depth of his mistake. He hadn't just sent money into the wrong hands. He had unknowingly funded Kioma's comfort while Nia endured a life of quiet neglect and abandonment. I need to see her, Malcolm said suddenly, pushing back his chair. His assistant tried to stop him, reminding him of meetings, calls, obligations, but Malcolm brushed past her without slowing down. Devon followed as they took the private elevator to the parking garage where Malcolm's black Mercedes waited. The drive to Chicago's South Side took 40 minutes. Through the tinted windows, Malcolm watched the city transform. Shining skyscrapers faded into aging brick buildings, then into neighborhoods scarred by years of struggle and neglect. Each passing mile felt like a descent into a reality he had ignored for far too long. Mercy House Shelter occupied an old church building, white paint peeling, a simple sign offering free meals and emergency housing. Malcolm had donated to places like this for years, written checks, attended galas, applauded speeches. But he had never stepped inside. As he exited his luxury car onto cracked pavement, shame burned in his chest. Inside, the shelter was clean but worn. Metal cots lined the walls of what had once been a sanctuary. Women moved quietly through the space, some caring for small children, others lost in distant stares. The air smelled of disinfectant mixed with warm food from the kitchen. A woman in her 60s approached them. Her hair was steel gray, her eyes kind but alert. Her name tag read, Mrs. Adoni, Director. A faint West African accent colored her voice. May I help you, gentlemen? Malcolm swallowed hard. I'm looking for Nia Sterling. I was told she's staying here. Mrs. Adoni's expression shifted, professional calm giving way to recognition. She knew exactly who he was. In Chicago, Malcolm Sterling's face was familiar from business magazines and charity events. May I ask what this is regarding? she asked carefully. Malcolm took a breath he hadn't realized he was holding. I'm her grandfather, he said quietly. The words felt unfamiliar on his tongue. After 18 long years of absence, Mrs. Adoni studied Malcolm for a long, searching moment. Then she gave a slow nod. She's in the kitchen, she said quietly. Working her shift. She led them down a narrow hallway into a large institutional kitchen where the evening meal was being prepared. Pots clanged softly. Steam rose from industrial stoves. Several women worked side by side in practiced silence. And there, standing at a deep stainless steel sink, sleeves rolled up, hands submerged in cloudy, soapy water, was Nia. Malcolm stopped breathing. She was tall and slender, carrying herself with a natural grace that mirrored her mother's. Thandy's high cheekbones framed her face, her neck long and elegant. She wore jeans that were a little too short and a donated sweatshirt faded by time and use. Her natural hair was pulled back simply. No jewelry, no makeup. Yet even here, even now, she radiated quiet dignity. She laughed softly at something another woman said, her face briefly lighting up before she returned to scrubbing a heavy pot. Malcolm's chest tightened painfully. This was supposed to be a young woman choosing colleges, attending prom, planning a future. Instead, she was earning her meals one dish at a time in a homeless shelter. Nia, Mrs. Adoni called gently, could you come here for a moment, sweetheart? Nia dried her hands on a towel and turned. When she saw Malcolm and Devon in their tailored suits, confusion flickered across her face. She approached cautiously, the way someone does when they sense a moment that could change everything, but don't yet know how. Yes, ma'am, she said softly, her eyes moving between them. Up close, Malcolm saw his daughter everywhere, in the shape of Nia's face, in the thoughtful way she held herself, in the guarded intelligence behind her eyes. Thandy lived on in this young woman, and he had left her alone. Do you know who I am? Malcolm asked, his voice breaking despite his effort to stay composed. Nia studied him carefully, then shook her head. No, sir. Should I? The words struck him like a blow. Should she know her grandfather? Should she recognize the man who was meant to protect her? Should she have grown up knowing she was loved? Yes, he said quietly. You should. He swallowed. My name is Malcolm Sterling. I'm your grandfather. Your mother, Thandi, was my daughter. Nia's face shifted through emotions in seconds. Confusion, disbelief. A flicker of fragile hope, followed instantly by fear. That's not possible, she said, taking a small step back. Aunt Kai told me my grandfather wanted nothing to do with me. She said you blamed me for my mother's death. She said you never wanted to see me. The room seemed to tilt. Malcolm reached for the doorframe to steady himself. Devon stepped closer, ready to catch him. Mrs. Adoni brought a chair, but Malcolm waved it away. He needed to stand. For this. That's a lie, Malcolm said, his voice trembling with fury. I have never blamed you for anything, not ever. He took a breath. I've sent money every single month since the day you were born. $10,000. Every month. For 18 years. Nia stared at him as if he were speaking another language. I don't understand, she whispered. What money? I've never had money. I don't even have a bank account. Malcolm opened the folder Devon had given him that morning. He spread the documents across a nearby counter. Bank statements, transfer records, 18 years of proof. Every month, every deposit, $10,000 placed into an account under Nia Sterling's name. But the authorized guardian, the person with full access, Kyoma Johnson. Nia's hands began to shake as she scanned the pages. Around them, the kitchen had fallen silent. The women had stopped working, sensing something profound unfolding. Mrs. Adoni placed a protective hand on Nia's shoulder. This says $2 million, Nia whispered. Where is it? Why am I here? Why do I have nothing? Malcolm felt tears rise, tears he hadn't allowed himself since Thandy's funeral. That's what I'm going to find out, he said firmly. And whoever stole your future is going to pay for every single day you've suffered. The hours that followed blurred together. Malcolm insisted Nia leave with him immediately, but she hesitated. 18 years of lies don't disappear in a single moment.